wonder how you get published. Once you've written a book, how do you get published? There's a lot of stories out there that say you have to know somebody. That's not really true. I did not know anybody in the publishing industry when I got started. You have to send your, you have to get an agent to agree to read your book. And the first thing you have to do is write them what's called a query letter. The query letter says, I've written a book. Do you want to read it? Only it doesn't say it like that. Somehow or other you have to write that query letter as if your book is different from every other book. So it's kind of a challenge. Plus you have to put your book into what's called synopsis format. And even though writers are creative, adaptable people, agents and editors are like the strictest teacher you've ever had in your life, times 10. You don't turn it in an exact, proper format, they won't even look at it. It would be as if you turned in an assignment you worked on really hard, but you had your name in the wrong side of the paper, and the teacher said, I won't look at that. So you got to make sure everything is just so when you hand it in. And a synopsis is your whole book, written in 2 to 5 pages, double-spaced, and made to sound interesting without putting in any dialogue. So that is often an assignment that's harder for the author than writing the whole book. So you have to submit a query letter and a synopsis and get an agent to say, yes, I'll read your book. So that's your first hurdle. So I sent it out again. This time I happened to send it to an agent in London, and she had it for over 4 months. And I just figured, not only did she not want it, she didn't even care to contact me about how much she didn't want it. And when she called to say that she wanted to represent me, I thought she was a telemarketer. Because the caller ID said unavailable, because she was calling from London. And you know, unavailable, usually a telemarketer. I picked up the phone and I said, hello. And the way that I do just goes to show you never know who you're going to be talking to. Never pays to be rude. But I think British people think that Americans are all rude anyway. She said, I'd like to speak to Victoria Hanley. And I thought to myself, gotta be a telemarketer. Because nobody else uses my full name unless they're trying to sell me something. So I said, speaking. Even more rude. She said, this is Sophie Hicks, which point I almost fell over. I've read your book and it's quite gripping. I want to represent you. I don't remember any of the rest of the song. So the agent then submits you to a publisher, and the publisher then decides if they want to publish you. So you have to go through 3 hurdles to get published. You have to first get an agent to say they'll read it. Then you have to get an agent to say they accept it. Then you have to get a publisher that the agent submits to agree to print it. And once they've agreed, it takes about 6 months to get the contract negotiated and signed. And then after that, it takes another 1.5 years before it's actually at that time, the rules were 1 at a time, which to me is extremely unfair to authors because most authors collect an average of 10 rejections, and the average rejection takes 4 months. So do the math on that.
That was what you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's why I wondered.
3.5 years of your life devoted to being rejected. You might as well write a query letter that says, you are cordially invited to my rejection. Maybe that will get their attention. The rules are beginning to change because agents are recognizing that's really a little bit much. Since they reject 99% of what they get, how is that fair to people? So it's starting to change, and there are books. I don't know if you have any in this library, but if you don't, you might consider getting a book. It's not just this. There are books of directories of agents, and it will list the agent. It will list the genres they represent. Genre meaning everything from, young adult to romance to fantasy to whatever. And then it will list their submission guidelines. And some of them will say simultaneous submissions okay, in which case you can put in your query letter, this is a simultaneous submission. But you have to let them know that. Those are the rules now. You have to let them know that. If it says exclusive submissions only, then that means that particular agent doesn't want you submitting to other people while you're submitting to them. And the main thing you want to do is be sure you fulfill their requirements, because like I said, they're like the strictest teacher you ever had. By the way, our authors are really dependent on artists. I'm going to show you. So this is United Kingdom, United States. And people say don't judge a book by its cover, but everybody does, don't we? If you see a cover that attracts you, you're much more likely to pick up the book. And the author has no say in the cover art. That is something that the publisher decides. So
it's a family model. Are you ready, Jerry? I'm ready. Want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
When you sell a book, no matter to which country you sell it to, you get what's known as an advance. The advance is a check, preferably a large check, that is there to encourage you to write your next book. It's based on how many royalties they believe you'll probably end up earning for sure. Although 7 out of 10 authors never make back their advance. Kind of sad. I'm happy to say I'm not among them, but I have made back my advance and I am getting royalties, depending on the economic condition of the country. So Italy is less economically viable than Japan. So the Japanese advance was bigger than the Italian advance. The smallest advance I ever got was from Russia, which is a really depressed country. That was only like $700 or something. So they send you these checks when they buy your book up front, and then you begin to earn royalties against that advance. Once the advance has been earned out, you start getting paid your royalties. Every time a hardcover sells, I make about $1.25. The book sells for $18. Why would I make $1.25? I wrote the book.
You didn't pay to print it.
I did not pay to print it. That's right. I didn't pay to print it. I didn't pay for the artwork. I didn't pay for the designer who did the layout on the lettering. I did not pay for the blurb writer, or the editor, the printer, the binder, the warehousing, the distribution. And then, of course, the bookstore has to make their profit also. So that's how it works.
Is it like a percentage?
It's a percentage, yes. It's 10% on hardcover and 7% on paperbacks. But then I have to pay my agent out of that. Plus, the United Kingdom owns me worldwide, so they get 20% off the top of every country, including the U.S. The U.S. is a foreign country in my contract. So.